Good evening, one. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another live edition of the Highbury Squad. This is probably one of our most special episodes ever. Before we get to the big guest, let me welcome back my podcast brother from another mother, Mr. Super Kev, Campbell.
How are you, Soph? You okay?
I'm doing okay. I'm sweating like swine, but I'm
Me
okay.
too. It's hot here. It's hot here.
Decided to wear a black shirt as well today, so it's all my own fault. And also rejoining us, and he'll be joining us more this coming season as one of our co-hosts on the stateside squad, Mr. JJ Garcia.
How you guys doing?
Doing good, mate. And of course, welcome to the show. He doesn't need any introduction. I hope you enjoyed the soundbite at the beginning there, everyone. Super Jack Wilshere, welcome to the Highbury Squad.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
Nice one, Jack. Nice
one. My God. Thank you so much for joining us. And JJ, thanks for also helping make this happen as well. Jack, firstly, are you having a good summer so far?
Yeah, I am, thanks. It's been difficult to get away because of all the restrictions now, and I've got 4 kids now, so it's even tougher, like, to get the tests and everything. So we stayed here, but now, I mean, the weather's been terrible up to now, but luckily we've got some good weather. But typical English, we're moaning because it's hot. It's too hot.
I love it. I love how consistent we are with that. Yeah. I want to welcome all the squaddies in the house as well. Everyone is just like the comments. I'll try and keep up with everything, but to say that everyone is excited that you're on the show, Jack, and everyone just loves and adores you. Let's get started with a real simple question, because we've been wondering, did you watch the Euros? Were you following the Euros? Were you stuck into that?
I actually did a little bit of work for BBC on the radio, so I watched a lot of games. Some games that I probably wouldn't have watched if I weren't. So I really enjoyed it, actually. It was obviously nice to see some fans back in, and it just gives it that extra edge, doesn't it? It just makes it a little bit better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely added the spice and brought the atmosphere back. I wanted to ask you a question, and before I hand it over to Kev, because I'm not sure there's been a player since you that we've been wanted to protect, to put in our pockets, keep them safe forever than Saka. And maybe you could add ESR to that, but Saka especially. It seems the same with you, you know, a player that every single fan loved and adored. I just wondered what you thought of Saka and how you felt about him taking that last penalty as well, and the similarity maybe between you kind of being the rising star at the Arsenal and now Saka kind of experiencing what you've experienced.
Yeah, I've liked him. I mean, when I was there, he trained with us a couple of times, and you could always tell that he had something special. And Arsene always liked him, and then obviously Arsene left, and you always worried that the new manager might come in and have different ideas. But I think his quality and his character, as we've seen recently, but even before, he was 18 when he first started playing really properly, and he's been Arsenal's best player ever since. And to have that level of consistency at that age is, because I remember when I came through and my first season, I had a really good season, but there were some games there where my standards dropped a little bit, or I wasn't quite at it. But he seems to be at it all the time, even with England as well. And you know, as well, he was left out with the first few games. Remember that for England, and he came in and he kept his pace. He showed the manager how good he was, and then to take the penalty, I mean, that just because I was actually watching it thinking, I hope he doesn't put his hand up to take one, because as you said, I'm an Arsenal man and we want to protect him. But as he was walking down, I was actually confident, but then when he missed, I just felt gutted for him. I felt sick for him. But we have to just credit him for having the charisma, the courage to walk up and take a penalty for your country in a final of a major tournament. I mean, fair play to him.
Jack, I think me and Sophie had a discussion about Saka taking a penalty. I just think it's part of you. I believe you were the same. Whenever you got on a football pitch, you were most comfortable. You were fearless, as far as I was concerned. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, I agree. And it's almost like he wanted to take that responsibility. And I used to have that. I used to play in some games, like FA Cup games. I used to be playing the game thinking, if this goes to penalties, I want to take one. And I think he's the same. He's the same type of character who wants to stand up, who wants to show everyone how good he is, and he's doing that week in, week out.
Mm-hmm. And, I think, one of the things that Kev talked about a lot last season, Jack, was how we've become so reliant on young players saving us. And it feels like it's been a little bit the Arsenal way. And even the expectations on you. I mean, how do you see that? I mean, the similarities, because it felt like everything was kind of building around you, and the pressure, I can't even imagine, not only wearing the badge, but also taking that hope baton on as well. Do you feel like, as Kev did, that relying on young players all the time is just not the recipe for success going forward?
Yeah, I think but it also speaks volumes of these young players, because you said about me, but I was quite lucky. I came into a squad with experienced players, experienced pros, Van Persie, Fabregas, Nasri, players like that, international players who were top players who helped me through. And now they haven't really got that, and they are relying more on these young players. And I think it speaks volumes of the work that the academy are doing, but also these young players who can step up to that level and just look like they've been there for years.
Mm-hmm. I want to bring JJ in. JJ, I know you've been a fan of Jack's for a long time, and we did a show with you a couple of times, and we always talk about our favorite Arsenal players. Mm-hmm. And when I asked you, out of Thierry and Vieira and all the legends that have played for the club, including Jack, you chose Jack.
Yeah, I think people were shocked at it because obviously Thierry's Thierry, right? Bergkamp.
Yeah, I'm shocked at that as well.
But the reason behind that is because I played the sport growing up here in the United States, and I played at a competitive level here, not what you guys are used to over the pond, but you and I played a lot of similar. When that badge was on our chest, we played for it, and that's just something. Anytime I saw you on the pitch, I knew you were there for Arsenal, and you would have done anything. And let's be real, you're usually probably one of the smaller guys on the pitch, and you're in everyone's faces if you touch your teammates. So that was like a real attraction to me, about you as a player. So that's why, yes, Thierry runs like a thoroughbred and could score from anywhere and has amazing goals. But it's your passion on the pitch is what just got, and I loved watching it. And that's what really kept me engaged, got me waking up at 4:30 in the morning and watching games here.
Thanks,
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. Like, you kind of got, did you realize, Jack, and I know, and you had such a great connection with the fans, obviously that iconic clip after winning the FA Cup. Of course you still hate Tottenham. I mean, that's a given, but were you aware always of how you'd bring fans to their feet? A good friend of the show, Lee Judges, his question for you was, he said that you're amazing, and if not for injuries, he felt like you could have been the a Liam Brady type. How do you feel about that? And I think it's important that we talk about that with you, because it's such a significant part of your career.
Yeah, to be honest, with the fans were always good to me. I remember when I played my first game at the Emirates. It was the Emirates Cup. I was 16, and I came on against Real Madrid, and I got an instant cheer straight away. And I couldn't believe it, and ever since that moment, really, they stuck with me, even through the injuries, the difficult times. When I came back, they would still. The one thing that stands out in my mind as well is the time they'd give me to come back, because obviously when you come back from injury, it takes a while to get up to full speed. You need a few games, and sometimes fans don't give players that time. They're on them straight away, but the fans were always brilliant with me, and they kept me going. That feeling of running out of the Emirates was what kept me going in the dark times, the injuries, in the physio room, in the gym. But I always had that vision of me running out of the Emirates and the fans cheering, which always kept me going.
Mm-hmm. One of the, Tom Canton from Gooner Talk TV does a great show as well. He mentioned, and he sent a note to me saying that how do you felt about the injury prone label? Because it felt like a lot of your injuries were more event driven than you being injury prone. Did that piss you off?
It did at first, but then not really, because I understood why I was getting injured and how I was getting injured. And people would say, "Oh, change your game. You like to run with it. You like it when the opponents come close to you." But that was my game. That still is my game, and that's what made me the player I am. So I would never change my game. No.
Mm-hmm.
Jack, do you the way, just for the audience, a lot of the audience don't understand what it's like to play with injuries or play when you're not fully fit. And there is no hiding place once you cross that white line, is there? If you're going to put yourself up to play, even if you carry a knock, the fans think you're 100%. Could you just explain to fans what it's like, obviously playing for Arsenal, but not being 100%? Because I'm sure you've done that many times.
Oh, I've played loads of games, and you know what? What helped me in them situations is a lot of players go through that. It wasn't just, you know, the ones who are labelled injury prone. You know, a lot of players are training and playing in pain. That's part and parcel of being not just a footballer, being an athlete is learning to deal and handle pain, because you know, you put your body through hell every day. You train, you run around, and then Saturday comes and you have to be 100% because there's no hiding place, especially in the Premier League. Everyone's fit and strong, and that's like the bare minimum. Then you have to, you know, focus on doing things right, especially at Arsenal, because we used to have a lot of the ball, and that brought pressure in itself, because teams would come to us and sit back, and it would be down to us to break them down. And but handling pain and dealing with pain is a big part of I don't think just a footballer. I think it's an athlete, but with footballers, obviously, there's a lot more spotlight on them. People are judging them. People are on them, and sometimes they don't know what your body's going through and what you're doing just to be on that pitch.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't even imagine how much have you, as well as being lauded in your career, have you felt judged a lot, Jack, and unfairly at times?
Yeah, but I think everyone says, "Oh, I don't judge," but we do judge. Do you know what I mean? Everyone, us as human beings, when you look at someone, you judge them straight away. That's just part and parcel of who we are. And yes, footballers and probably young English players get more, especially in England, people judging them, people onto them. But I think you sort of learn to not be high when you're on top of things and you're playing well, and not be too low when you're down. You just have to do the right things day in, day out, do your training, prepare yourself for the weekend, and give your best at the weekend, because you know Kevin will tell you everyone can have a bad game. That's part and parcel of being a footballer, but you can always guarantee that when you get on the pitch, as JJ says, you've got passion, you want to fight for your team, you want to win the ball, you want to run around.
Yeah. You know, I'm going to start shifting gears here a little bit, because I want to start taking you back. And Danny from a Burkamp Wonderland was talking about the under 18s and under 21s when you were playing, and like players who you was maybe surprised that didn't become really prominent in the game, taking you back to moments like this. Kev has a similar picture of when he was young, winning the FA Youth Cup.
That's baby Jack and
baby Jack, right here. And another great photo here. These memories, Jack, and playing with some of the players you did. Are you surprised by anyone who maybe didn't go on to play? And how did this help you become, you know, prepared for that first team when you're stepping in, like you said, playing alongside some real legends of the game?
Yeah, well, them pictures, them boys were like my family growing up. You know, when I was in the academy, I'd be there 3 times a week, play on the weekend. So that's all I knew. You know, they were my friends, because I had friends at school, but I didn't have time to go out with my friends from school or do things or play football with them, because I was always training or playing a game. And then when I was 15, and I moved closer to the training ground. I lived with Wojciech Szczesny at the time, but there was probably...
What was that like?
Yeah, he was crazy. He was a madman. But there's probably like 10 or 15 of us on the same street. So we were all like always out together. We'd go to training together, and we'd spend our lives together, basically. And then to win something with them was very special. And to be honest with you, I was very surprised that a lot of them didn't go on to play for Arsenal. A few of them did, probably not as much as they should have, but some of them, I mean, a lot of them still went on to make careers, but I thought a lot of them would go on to have careers in the Premiership and have better careers. But things happen, and you know, you have to be. I always think back to, I went on loan to Bolton. I came back and I was told that I can go on loan again. I wasn't going to play, and then all of a sudden, 4 or 5 midfielders were injured, and I got my chance. And it was all about, when you got your chance, you had to take it. Like, Arsenal was good at giving players a chance, but you always knew, once you get that chance, whether it be in training or a game, you have to take it, or you won't be seen again.
Yeah. Kev, you know, Magic Mike from Gooner's podcast actually sent a question to ask Jack about Bolton and his experience there, and you know, in terms of how the club handles loans now, and if we're kind of failing players versus helping them and stuff like that too. So it's really interesting to hear Jack mention Bolton as well.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say that I first saw Jack when they played Manchester City. Was it the semi-final?
Yeah, in the Youth Cup.
In the Youth Cup.
Yeah,
at Man City. My lad was coming through the ranks, and he'd heard about this young kid at Arsenal, Jack Wilshere. And obviously, I knew who you were, but to see you in the flesh was brilliant. You took City apart, and then obviously you beat Liverpool in the final. Yeah. But going to Bolton what was that like for you? Because obviously coming out of kind of a comfort zone at Arsenal, going into Bolton, what was that like for you mentally as well?
Yeah, that was the biggest change, and probably positive from it was stepping out of my comfort zone, because I just turned 18. I was living at home with my mum and dad. They did everything for me. I'd wake up, I'd have breakfast on the table, I'd go to training, and we had all great facilities. And then, to be honest with you, though, I pushed and moved through. I was on to Arsene all the time, saying I want to play more. I'd play in the cup, and I think it got to the point where he just had enough of me asking him to play. It was like the end of January transfer window. He was like, all right, you can go on loan until the end of the season. And I remember I got in the car with my dad, and I had 2 offers. One was Hull and one was Bolton. We went to Bolton first, and we got out of the car in January. In Bolton, it was like -5. Yeah.
Freezing, yeah.
And we went in and we sorted out everything straight away, and I signed for him. And then my dad went home, and I remember sitting in the hotel thinking, oh my God, like, this is it. I'm here on my own. It's now it was like a Thursday, and on the Saturday we had Liverpool away, and I remember I was in the squad, and I thought, right, I'm here now. I felt like I was on my own, and I had to focus and just get my head down. And I mean, I had a great time there, to be honest. I didn't play for the first 3 or 4 games, and I started to think, oh my God, like, I might as well have stayed at Arsenal. I could have been at Arsenal and training with all them great players, but now I'm just sat on the bench here. But then, as I spoke about before, I got my chance. It was actually Man City away, and I took it, and I stayed in the team from them. And I learned so much. I learned more about football in them 6 months than I probably did in the previous 4 or 5 years where I hadn't played in, men's football. I'd played in the Youth Cup, I played in the reserves, I'd been in and out in the Carling Cup, but to play week in, week out in the Premier League with grown men, a strong Bolton team as well, who were known in the Premier League for being strong players who were difficult to beat. I had to learn that side of the game really quick. But yeah, it was brilliant. They accepted me straight away, and I had a great time.
So let's shift gears again and get stuck into being in the first team, becoming a fan favorite. And like JJ, he's been an Arsenal fan, lives in the States. I'm a Londoner, born in North London, moved here years ago. We have fans here that, Jack, they travel, they pay money to go see the club. Arsenal America do a fantastic job as well of, making these things happen. You've got a lot of love here in the US, and you become part of the furniture. You become a player that we all completely fall in love with. I wanted to throw a question to you from Harry Simew from the Chronicles of a Gooner, because Who was the best player you played with? Like once you got into the team and you're playing with like the likes of this guy and you're playing with Giroud and then you've got Mesut and you've got, the genius that is Santi. Talk us through that a little bit, like the different teams you played in and the players that you really loved playing alongside and why.
When I first broke into the team, my first season, we had Cesc, who I played in midfield with, who was the captain. He was brilliant for me. I mean, Cesc was someone who, when I was in the academy, I grew up watching. He played in the first team at 16. I think he was like an idol for all of us in the academy, and especially for me because he was a midfielder. He was a similar sort of player who likes to create things. And he was, again, like he was a smaller player, not really strong, but so passionate about Arsenal. He had that as well. He had that love for Arsenal and wanting to show everyone. And we had Van Persie and Nasri was in that team. We had a really good team, and we probably should have. Well, I think we should have won the league that year. We
should have done more.
Yeah, we should have done more, definitely. And then we obviously lost to Barcelona in the second leg, which we felt hard done by. But then at the end of that season, I didn't kick a ball for the next season. I missed a year of injury. And when I came back into the team, the whole team had changed. Cesc had left, Van Persie had left, Nasri had left, and we'd got Mikel was in midfield. We got Per Mertesacker at the back. Cazorla had just come in. So yeah, the team had completely changed, and it was a bit strange at first, trying to get used to it. I mean, obviously Arsene had his philosophy and the sort of the DNA of the club, the way we wanted to play, but they were new players. I had to get used to them again. But I really enjoyed that year in that team, and then obviously the next season, Mesut came, Sanchez came, and it felt like we'd really lifted the squad, and we had a real chance, and we never really fulfilled our potential. I felt with that team, because we had some players who, could do whatever they wanted really with the ball, and we had someone like Alexis Sanchez who, similar to that sort of Thierry player, who could just win a game on his own. Like, we could be having a bad game and he'd do something, a little bit of magic and put it in the top corner. So yeah, I played in a few different teams. I wouldn't like to pick my favourite because I enjoyed them all, but I did really enjoy playing with Cesc for that first year.
Yeah, very cool. I mean, some players there, Kev.
Wow, I know. My question for Jack was going to be, to be honest, with that great team with Ozil and Sanchez and yourself, except Santi Cazorla, do you think, like many fans, if we could have really got that defense right? Because I just don't think that defense was right. The balance going forward was brilliant, but defensively, I don't think it was right. If we'd have got that right, I truly believe that team would have won the league and kicked on. What's your thoughts on that, Jack?
Yeah, I don't think it was just the defense, because I thought Koscielny was brilliant. He maybe could have done with someone next to him, but I think it was the defending as a team. I don't mean the way we defended, we couldn't defend. I mean sort of like the transition. Yeah. As you said, we were brilliant going forward, and I remember that was something Arsene we really worked on. He really wanted to improve, and we did get a little bit better at it, but we didn't get as good as we should be. Just like when we lose it, that first 5 seconds, if we could have won it back higher up, like the great Arsenal teams did, like Vieira,
the punished teams,
they win the ball back higher up, and bang, they're on the team on the back foot, and we'd punish them, and we should have been better at that, really.
Jack, do you think can we kind of, I love how Kev takes us behind the white lines across into the dressing room. We've got a great series where we talk to players, one-on-one about that type of stuff. Was the training intense under Arsene in the last few years? Like, where do you think it kind of went wrong? Was it, because there's been so many stories about all that type of stuff. It feels like if you're a professional and you're playing for Arsenal and, things are pretty serious, but was there kind of a more nonchalant, horizontal approach to things towards the end?
I don't think much changed, to be honest. Like, Arsene never changed. I mean, sometimes the players would not complain, but they would say, they could do a little bit more. But I loved Arsene sessions, and some players like variety, but I like knowing what we were going to do on what day, and I could still tell you, I could walk you through the week now of what we were going to do, the session we were going to do, and I like that. And I mean, I think as well, it was easy for people to sort of pick that out and say Arsene had dropped off, but he didn't. I mean, I always think back to that one thing we could have improved, and that was only the transition. Like when we lost the ball, if we could have been better at winning it back and hurting teams more, I think we would improve. And my last year, obviously, was when we got to the Europa League semi-final. And I even think if we'd have won that, maybe Arsene would have stayed. Like we probably should have won that. We played against Atletico Madrid, and they were down to 10 men in the first leg, and then we made a mistake, and Griezmann scored, and it was 1-1 in the first leg, and then we went there, and it was tough. I think that happened as well a lot that season. A lot of individual errors which cost the team, and obviously you can't help that. I mean, them things happen, but we probably had more than we should have.
Kev, you still say that about the squad and have been saying it for like last season in terms of, how poor we've been off the ball.
Yeah. So I just, I'd like to throw it to Jack as well, because this is a in-house type of thing where you could have the greatest game plan, Jack, can't you? But it's the players, when they cross that white line, as you said, you can't legislate for mistakes, etc. It's the game plan is in play. You prepare the same way, and then you go on the pitch. And if you win, you're the best thing since sliced bread. And if you lose, you haven't prepared right.
Yeah, and that's just football, isn't it? I mean, that happens across the board. But us as Arsenal people, we always feel it always happens more to Arsenal. And at times it probably does. I do think you can see a change with Mikel in terms of their mentality towards defending. I think they're trying to do the right things. They are making a few individual errors, but I think with time, I think they'll come out as well. You've got young players in there who, with experience, they'll learn how to deal with them things when they're put in them situations. But yeah, I think there is a change with Mikel. He's definitely changing something, and hopefully it'll happen this season.
All right, we're going to fast forward. We're going to rewind and then go back to Mikel, because we definitely want to hear from you there. We're going to talk about a couple fun things. I think 2 of the most iconic games or moments for you. People are already saying, so get on with it already. Ask him about this. And I think this is a really good question from Dan Potts from Lee Judge's TV show. Jack, your performance at the Emirates against Barcelona will always be remembered by me and Arsenal fans as the best individual performance we've ever seen by someone in an Arsenal shirt. Would you say that was your best performance? And do you feel like you had more? Do you feel like you could have had? Let's just leave it at that. Would you say that was your best performance for Arsenal? Do you feel like you had more and could have offered the club more before leaving? Always loved watching you. One of the most exciting prospects, once a Gooner, always a Gooner. That's from Dan. It's such an iconic performance. Talk us through that. I mean, you're playing against Iniesta, Messi, and Pep Guardiola comes out and is raving about you.
Pep actually killed me as well before the second leg. I remember a journalist asked him about something, and he was like, "Yeah, he's good, but we have loads of them players in our B team." I think he was just trying to get in my head.
Yeah,
cheeky bugger.
Yeah. You know what? Like, that was my first proper season of playing, and I'd grown a lot in confidence from the start of the season to then. I'd played in all the group games in the Champions League. I felt comfortable at that level. I probably felt more comfortable in the European games than I did in the Premier League game. I felt you get a little bit more time.
That's interesting. More time.
Yeah, I think you get a little bit more time. It's not as physical, and I felt like it suited me maybe a little bit more. But going into, I remember actually sitting there with some of the boys before the draw, and we drew against Barca, obviously. And I remember just seeing people do this, And it was because the year before they'd played against them and they got absolutely smashed. But I think the one thing that helped me was I'd never experienced playing against them. So I went into the game full of confidence. I was obviously nervous, especially in the tunnel before the game when I was walking out next to Messi, Iniesta, Xavi, Busquets, David Villa. Like, these are players who I'd just watched win the World Cup a few years before. So yeah, I was nervous, but I think the nerves helped me. I've always said nerves help me focus and like really focus on my task, what I've got to do, who I'm playing against, and my own game as well. And I remember like the first 10, 15 minutes, we didn't really get a touch of the ball, and I remember thinking, "Oh, this is why they were so worried." And like they'd make these little passes in midfield where you wouldn't know whether to go, and if you went and came out, Messi would be in the hole.
Yeah,
Mm.
and the Messi would turn, and everyone's in trouble. So, and that went on for about 15 minutes, and then we sort of settled into the game, and I remember thinking, right, I'm gonna have to like just get the ball off one of these midfielders, and the ball bounced, and I can't remember who was going for it, and I slid and got the ball, and I think it was Xavi coming towards me, and I just knocked it past him, and all of a sudden the crowd just lifted.
yeah.
And like I still get goosebumps thinking of it now, like how good the fans were that game. But that moment, and then we sort of broke up the other end, and I played it to Van Persie, and he probably should have crossed it, but he missed. But from that moment, I think that everyone thought, right, we can do that. And then I quickly learned, like we had a bit of possession of the ball, and the ball would come into me, and one of the midfielders would come from one way, one of the strikers would come, the winger would come in. They were so good at pressing. But I remember doing it early and thinking, if we can beat that press, the first press,
You're at them.
Then we're out. We're at them. They don't want to run that way. They never did, and we did. And I mean, I've done that so many times that night where I'd drop deep and just start off an attack, and then I mean, for the second goal was a great example where we won it at the back. Someone fired it into me, and I hit it first time through the midfield to Cesc, and Cesc turned and hit a lovely ball, and then we just broke. But yeah, that was a special night, and I remember after the game, I was sat there with Wojciech actually, who was a good mate of mine. He was like, "Jack, we just beat Barcelona," and I was like, "I know." Unbelievable.
Jack, the important part for me was whenever I watched that performance was the way you adjusted during the game. And that fearless nature that you had, you know, to play against, look, you're talking about 3 of the top 5, probably 4 of the top 10 players in the world at the time. And what, as you said quite rightly, they used to set traps for you in midfield. And once they trap you, you're in big trouble. But you seem to know all the traps. You got around all the traps.
Yeah, but I think
it was like, wow.
That's key what you said, how I adjusted, because I didn't start the game like that. I remember thinking this could be a long night. But I quickly realised in my head that if you can get out of them traps, you're through them. Because I didn't want to run that way. And let's be honest as well. Yes, Xavi, Iniesta, and Busquets, great on the ball, like the best ever on the ball. But they didn't want to run that way, and they weren't that quick or strong. If you could get away from him in 5-10 yards, you were at them.
Yeah.
So, did you have like total freedom in that game, Jack, or did Arsene specifically direct you on? And what you just said in terms as well of like, you know, sometimes players figure it out in the game, and you know, there's this organic, spontaneous way of playing. But how much of that was a conversation between you and Arsene in terms of the preparation and then at halftime?
You know what, Arsene, and going back to where people said he might have gone a little bit in the last few years, I think the game changed, but Arsene was still the same. Like he would always say to me and say to us as a team, if we play our game, we'll beat them. And yeah, okay, when we played against the bigger teams and the bigger games, we would do a little bit of sort of team shape, tactical information.
Adjusting, yeah.
But a lot of it and most of it was based around our game. Like he'd never said to me, right, make sure you stay on Iniesta or make sure you stay on Messi. It was like, you play your game. Yes, get up to the ball and do what you can to try and disrupt them, but play your game and we'll be fine.
Did you get any of their shirts after? Did they Did any of them comment and reach out to you, like the Holy Trinity of Barcelona?
No, I mean, I don't think they were, as you know, JJ, as you said, I was quite fiery and quite aggressive on the pitch, and I'm not sure that. Oh, sorry, that's my dog.
Aye. He's agreed.
There's another Vini Vieira over there.
Yeah. I'm not sure that Xavi, Iniesta, and Busquets appreciated a little 18-year-old trying to get in their face and tell them to shut up. But no, I asked Cesc actually, because obviously Cesc was friends with them all, to get me Messi shirt and Xavi, so he did.
Amazing.
Nice.
Yeah. I mean, that game, right, JJ, is like a game for the ages. It's one that we'll always watch. Yeah, one of the
ones you'll just randomly just throw in the highlights for it.
Yeah,
I've done that today. I've got to say, I've done that today.
Great. I mean,
I have to say, I'd like Jack. So many people reached out, Jack, and I even personally, like as I was going through a lot of stuff today, it choked me up, and it's choked a lot of people up, because I hope you know how much Arsenal fans just love and adore you, and how special you are to us. And these memories, we were talking, and we talk a lot with Kev, that some of the memories of our lives are built around the football season.
That's right.
I can remember, my mum and dad's 60th. That's right. We were playing Man United away. And, you know, and so what we want you to know is that all these great memories, they'll never die for us. And, you know, for us, like you live in eternity as you know, an Arsenal man. And, it's another moment that you gave us that is on rewind. I think most people have it on rewind. It's got to be the Norwich goal, right? Again, didn't ask you about it, I'd get killed. But you and Mr. GQ Giroud right here, giving it some. But this goal, Jack, is probably for us, I think it's the best team goal ever in the Premier League. Talk us through that moment and what it means to you to have that in your back pocket as well as, you know, an Arsenal man.
And so for right foot finish.
A right foot finish.
You know what? Like, I don't think it'd be fair to say that I gave you that, because that was such a team goal. Like, and at the time actually Giroud realised how good it was, because he said when we were celebrating, he was like, that was some goal. But I don't think we quite realised. We obviously heard the reaction from the fans when they showed the replay after, and it was a strange noise, like not like one you usually hear when someone scores a goal. It was almost like a wow. Do you know what I mean? But you know what? Like, we worked on them type of things all the time. Like, obviously not with players. It would be more like just playthroughs with mannequins, and it would be. Remember one drill Arsenal would do? He'd put like loads of mannequins. From the 18-yard box to 18-yard box, like the width of it, and just loads random places there. And he'd like time us to get through it, and we'd just be playing 1-2s the whole time. And it was like one of their moments. And yeah, the right foot finish. I'll tell you something which I've never told anyone. I didn't mean to put it in that corner. I tried to.
Open. Did you try to open up?
I tried to open up, and it's hit my heel, and the goalie's just like gone that way, and he's like, "What's going on here?"
Even better, Jack. Exclusive, even better.
Yeah.
I love it. Oh my gosh, that's fantastic. I want to ask you and Kev this too, because obviously for us in the moment, like you guys are in the moment, you're in the game. As fans, when we're watching it, we stop and we're like, "Holy that was unbelievable." And we had that champagne football, we had those goals in us, and it was just watching art, you know, be created in front of you. You said that Giroud said something to you. Do you guys in those moments, do you realize, like even in the Barcelona game, are you realizing I'm having an absolute blinder here, you know?
To be honest with you, in the second half of the Barcelona game, I thought, well, I'm playing well here, and I've got them. That's what I felt. I felt like I've got them. I knew that when they were going to press and where I could put the ball to put it out of their reach, or they'd have to foul me. So I knew that. But with the goal, no, I didn't realise until after. I mean, obviously, as I said, I heard the noise from the fans, and it was actually one of the Norwich players, Nathan Redmond, who's a friend of mine. He was on the bench, And as I was walking off at half time, he was like, "Stop that, stop that." And I was like,
You know it's a goal then, don't
yeah,
you?
yeah, that's when you know it's a good goal. And
I
you know
love
what
it.
as well? Like my mum and dad came and watched me everywhere. Like I'm talking, they'd go everywhere with me. And that game, one of their friends got married, and I was like, "Look, just go. It's Norwich at home. We're gonna beat them. Just go to the wedding." And they went. They were fuming.
Oh, gold, absolute gold, just brilliant
Greatest
stuff.
one of the greatest goals ever scored.
Yeah.
Sorry, mum and dad.
Yeah.
Jack, real quick, we've got another 20 minutes here. You're listening to the Highbury squad. We've got Super Jack Wilshere with us. Thank you so much for hanging out. I wanted to just ask you one quick question about Giroud. Do you think he's one of the most underappreciated players like ever who's played for Arsenal, let alone France? But it just seems like he's not appreciated by a section of fans for kind of what he's done. Yet we think he's just been superb. What's your take?
Yeah, he's. I was having this conversation with a friend yesterday, and like you don't see it often. You do see it sometimes, but a player who started his career at a certain level, and most players do that and then come back down. But he's just going up. Like even now, he's 34, 35? He's still going up. The one thing that stood out for me from his time at Arsenal, when he first came to Arsenal, and I've had this conversation with him, I didn't like playing with him. I didn't think like. He took a while to get used to the Premier League. The first season, he weren't very good. But then he came back for pre-season and he was a new player. Like he used his body. He was always strong. He was always big. And the one thing that stood out for me was how much of an athlete he actually was. Like we'd do runs in pre-season. He would be first. It wouldn't even be hard for him. He'd look after himself right. He'd live right. And I think he's seeing the rewards for that now. And his quality is coming out now as well. Like the last few years, especially for France, even when he's been called upon at Chelsea, like he seemed to never really play. But then when they need someone to score him a goal, he comes on and he's been fantastic. And then like the last few years where I was at Arsenal, I loved playing with him because you give it to him like the Norwich goal. He'd give you it back. He'd go again. He'd understand where you wanted it. And yeah, he improved a lot, and he's still improving, which is scary because he's getting older.
All right, so let's get stuck into today's Arsenal. And your ex-teammate here, Mr. Mikel Arteta, now the manager. Kev's been very supportive of him. I think most ex-players have been. I was definitely critical of him. Probably, I don't know, I'd be curious to know if you think people like me shouldn't be critical because we've never played the game, we don't know, but what we do is we analyze things, right? And I think if you're being respectfully critical, it's okay. JJ is a huge supporter of Arteta as well. I think we all want to see him do well. Yep. Talk us through a little bit about the man you played alongside and what your take is so far of him as Arsenal manager.
Yeah, well, when I played with him, as I said before, I came into a new team. And he was sort of the man. He wasn't the captain, but he was almost like the captain. He was the man who controlled everything from the middle. I heard Arsene say something once, and it's so true. He was like our technical leader. Like everyone went through him. He'd understand when to slow things down. I think he didn't get a lot of credit for what he did at Arsenal, but he was really good, especially coming into a team that had lost a lot of good players and were struggling a little bit to really push. I mean, we were still getting Champions League, but we weren't really pushing for the league. And yeah, he was like that every single day. That leader, like he'd come in, he'd be first at the training ground, he'd do things right, he'd be on the massage bed. He would almost be annoying how much he was on the massage bed because you couldn't get on, but he was doing things right just to make sure he was on the pitch. And and then you know what? Like it's difficult because they had a difficult season last year, and if you'd have said to anyone if they finished where they did in the league at the start of the season, yeah, they failed. Like they didn't have a good season. But as I said before, I feel like he is changing something I feel like as well he's probably a couple players short of really getting back to at least challenging for the Champions League, because I think as well it's going to be a process of getting Arsenal back to where they should be. You know, we're not going to finish. We finished 8th, didn't we?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We're not going to finish 8th in the league one year and then go and win the league next year. It's not going to happen like that unless you Man City and you're going to spend 200, 300 million. As much as Arsenal fans are crying out for that, I feel like that wouldn't be the right way to do it for a club like Arsenal. I always feel like we've done things the right way. We bring young players through. We don't, if things start going wrong, we don't just throw money at it. Yeah, we probably should throw a little bit more money at it, but not them type of figures. But I feel like they're going in the right direction. I like the look of the new boy they brought in who scored the other day. I think he'll add something in midfield.
Tavares.
Yeah, I like Partey. I think there's more to come from him. I think he had ups and downs last season, but I think he's going to come good this season. He's a real good player. I played against him a few times and he's very good. And then obviously we've got Saka who seems to get better and better, and he's still really young with loads of time to develop. And obviously with Smith Rowe as well, I felt like he really stepped up another level last year. He really took responsibility on. So I think I expect us to be better this year. I don't think we're going to be challenging, but I think if we can build a base, like Kevin was talking about, from a defensive point of view, where we're difficult to beat, but we have to be difficult to beat. It seems at times teams find it too easy to play against us, and with the quality that we've got going forward, if we can make it difficult to beat, keep clean sheets, then we can get results.
Jack, so you can answer this one or not if you want.
Oh, here we go.
What was your take? As a fan, I was fuming, and even Kev, I think, was vocal about it on our show. What was your take on Aubameyang being late for the North London derby? Have you ever experienced anything like that? He's captain. Do you think like people like me were too hard on him? Like, I just think it's unacceptable. If I was late for a presentation at work, I'd probably lose my job. What was your take on him being late and subsequently kind of his form, his dip? I know he's had some personal issues as well, and we all, wish him the best about that. But what was your take on that? And playing Tottenham is a totally different ball game.
Yeah, well, I agree with you to a certain extent. It is unacceptable. But what I think we have to remember is he'll know that. Do you know what I mean? Like we've all had that feeling, whether you're going to a North London derby or whether you're going, I don't know, to school and you're late, and you get that feeling where you're just sick and you're worried, looking at the time, you're trying to do things. And I mean, I don't think we know the full story as well, because I can't see, like, listen, if you're late once and it's not your fault, then that's like, of course, fine him, that's fine. There must have been a lead up or build up of things where he was late for a few things and he'd been warned, because fair play to Mikel as well. I think that shows what type of character he is, to drop the captain in a game like that. He's got a good record against Tottenham as well. It's difficult for me to comment, because I've been there, like, where I've been late, but it's not my fault. Like, I'm stuck in traffic and I'm trying to ring the gaffer, or I'm trying to ring the physio to say, look, I'm going to be late, I'm really sorry. And you just get that sick feeling where it's not your fault. And I think he'll know that. I think as well that with a little bit of dipping form, he was probably pissed off that he'd not been supported or he'd not been backed, because he probably thought it wasn't his fault, and then things happened. But I'm sure now that he's over it, and he spoke to Mikel, and he probably won't do it again.
Yeah. Well, he ran out on the warm down too, didn't he? So I think that was the part, I think, that sent some fans into.
Yeah, he was probably pissed off. He's a big player. He's got a big ego. Like, he's done
Strikers Union, definitely.
Strikers Union,
definitely big ego. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
No, it's just, I think there's been this culture building at Arsenal that kind of came across as a bit not apathetic, Jack, but just not as engaged?
Yeah, well, Arsenal have been known over the years for having like these big leaders, like your Tony Adams, your Dennis Bergkamp's, like proper professionals, you know. And I do feel like the game has changed a little bit in that sense, where like they're not really around anymore. And yes, of course, it's unacceptable. Everyone has to stick to standards, and that's why I think as well it's important that the players sit down, like the leading players of the group and the managers sit down at the start of the season, and you just get these things sorted. You say, right, if you're late once, you get this much fine. If you're late another time, you drop for the game. And if them things are there and they're set in stone, then it don't matter who you are, whatever you do, then you know what the consequence is.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Do you are you excited about Martinelli? Do you think he deserves more of a chance next season?
Yeah, I am. I was surprised that at times that when Arsenal needed a goal or they needed something, he wasn't thrown on, because he's that type of player who can do that. You know, he arrives in the box. He always seems to be in the right place at the right time, and you can't teach them things. And I feel he'll only get better as well with experience of playing in the big games. And you know what, as well, I do think he is a player, and you've seen it as well, because he was brilliant when he first came to Arsenal. He will thrive off having the fans back. You know, the fans getting behind him and really pushing him on. He thrives off that. I remember the game at Chelsea where he scored that goal.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he just got better and better as that game went on, and the fans got behind him. And yeah, I'm excited to see more of him this year.
Okay. We'll go through a few quick fire ones from the squaddies, and thanks to all of the thousands of you who are tuning in to watch Jack this evening. They want to know your thoughts on the Cronkies, Jack. I mean, you were part of this club for years and years and years. I don't want to entrap you in any way here. You can dodge the question, but obviously, you know, Arsenal fans. I mean, you know, yes, have we gotten a little crazy lately? Yes, but that's because we have high standards, right? You guys, you and Kevin and you other players have spoiled us rotten. So what's your take on that? Do players even get engaged in that stuff? Do you guys just toss it aside?
Yeah, not really. Yeah. As players, yeah, when I was a player, I would not have a clue what was going on. It's only now, since I've stepped away from it and I'm looking into it, where you read more things and you're not in there, so you don't know what's actually going on. So it's a difficult question for me to ask, because yes, I want Arsenal to do well. Yes, I want them to invest more money, but I don't know really. I'm not in the club. I'm not sure the conversations that's going on. One thing I will say is, and I spoke openly about this on social media, was about Steve Bold and these type of people leaving the club. Like, I do feel like slowly, since Arsene has left, like these Arsenal people, like the people who've been there for years, who love the club, like us, you know, that have a job to play and have a role to play because I've been at the club where, you know, like a physio who is a real Arsenal man, who's nothing to do with football, but has got me going for a game, or spoke to me before a game about what this means. And like, then people have sort of slowly but surely been forced out of the club, for one reason or another. I don't know, but that is one thing that slightly does annoy me, because Arsenal was built on that tradition and the love for the club, and people from the kit man to the staff, the caretakers around the training ground, who really look after the place and are part of the furniture, and people who you grow to love. And when you win, you celebrate them with them. When you lose, they're down with you, and they bring you back up. And then people seem to leave. So I don't know what's going on, but hopefully, you know, it will come back to, first of all, the results on the pitch, and start. I think that will help as well, and that will lift people's mood and confidence of getting Arsenal back to where they should be, challenging, getting in the Champions League, playing in big games.
Yeah, Kev, you've talked about, I mean, some of the stories Kev tells us as well about Theo Foley and, you know, all of these guys that were so impactful on him as well. Jack raises a good point about that, Kev, you know, in terms of those.
Sophie, sorry to just cut across.
No.
I think Jack played under Steve Bold. Obviously, Vic Akers was kit man for years with his son Paul, who's kit man now. These are the guys who I grew up with. Vic Akers coached me with Pat Rice when I was 10-year-old.
Yeah.
And he was still there with Jack. So, you got the continuity going throughout the club. Whereas when you take these guys out, you do lose a bit of that Arsenal, whether it's DNA, whether it's that bloodline, call it what you like. It isn't the same, and it needs it.
Well, I mean, Kev, you were on the receiving end of a lot of bollocking. Well, you and the boys of, George Graham. He was on the softie. We know that. Jack, did Wenger ever give you a bollocking? Have you ever seen him giving anyone a bollocking?
Not like digging someone out, or he never dug me out, and I never saw him dig anyone out. But he wasn't afraid to get his point across, or say if we wasn't playing well, we wasn't good enough. I remember one moment that stands out is we played Liverpool away, and we were 4-0 down at half time. In fact, we were 4-0 down after about 21 minutes. Like, they were unbelievable. Like, we just didn't know what to do. I mean, they had Sterling, there's Suarez, they had Sturridge. Yeah. They were just like, they kept getting in behind us, and every time they shot, it seemed like a goal. I remember looking up at the clock thinking, Jesus Christ, it's 20 minutes and we're 4-0 down. This could be 6 or 7 before half time. But we steadied the ship a little bit, and we went in at half time, and he just went mad. He was like, these fans, they pay money to come and see you. Now get out there and show that you care, show that you want to fight for this club. And to be fair, we went out in the second half and we were better. I think it finished 4-1. But yeah, he wasn't scared to, and you could always tell as well, because I remember as well when you went into the dressing room, and it was like nothing I've experienced at half time. For the first 10 minutes, it was completely silent. Like, I remember walking in at half time my first game, and it was completely silent. And I'm looking around thinking, what's going on? What's going on? Like, I was used to like Steve Bold, who would have you up on the wall if you weren't good enough. Yeah, and then he'd spend 5 minutes, whether it would be he'd have a board out going through tactics, or he'd be hammering the team if we weren't good enough. But yeah, I learned to really like that and really find that useful, because you come in and no matter what happened, for 10 minutes you had time to relax, recover, take a drink, and then you'd go into it.
Whereas Johnny Baller here somewhere wanted to remind you that it was 5-1, Jack. Right, not 4.
All right.
1-0 second half.
1-0 second half.
We'll get you out on a couple more here. What was it like playing against and beating Tottenham? Were those your favourite games?
You know what? My first game against Tottenham was in the Carling Cup, and it was at White Hart Lane, and I was actually a part of the first. I was like one of the first names on the team sheet at that point, so I wasn't sure if I was going to play in the Carling Cup, because it was Arsene used it for younger players, and I was desperate to play. I remember thinking, please play, let me play, and I played, and we beat them 5-1, and yeah, it was beautiful. I assisted the first goal. It was actually the first goal was made in Hale End. Like, I was down the wing and I whipped it across from the bar line, and then Henry Lansbury came in and put it in, and I remember like whipping it across and just waiting for it to go in, and then just turning to the fans. I was right close. It was right close at White Hart Lane, and just going like that, yes. And I just got abused. But yeah, they were the best games. I always wanted to play in them games, and yeah, they were brilliant.
You can't beat a North London derby, Kev.
No,
JJ, you cannot beat a North London derby.
A win.
You always circle that one on the schedule. Sure.
If there's one team, I don't care what kind of season we're having. Don't care. Yeah. Nobody cares. You can't lose those 2 games. Yeah, is that how the players always felt, you guys? Kev, Jack?
Yeah, of course you did.
100%.
Yeah, your local rivals, definitely. Jack, just quickly, what for everybody in chat, because I could imagine this guy crazy.
It is. I can barely keep.
So now that you're out of the Arsenal, I always was told you never realise the Arsenal until you leave. What does the Arsenal mean to you now? Now that you're not there, you're a big fan,
Kev,
obviously.
You know what, Kev? It's funny you say that, because I remember Vic Akers saying that to me, and him telling me that you said that to him.
Yeah.
He said to me, ask Erin Campbell, you never realise how good it is and how big it is until you leave. And it is so true. Like, I left at a time when I felt it was right, because Arsenal left, a lot of people left, but it weren't right. And I'll always have that hanging over me, especially while I'm still playing. Like, what if I stayed at Arsenal? Because they offered me a new deal. What if I stayed there? Why did I leave? And like, I find myself sort of arguing myself, thinking, I can't think like this. I can't, like, I'm here now. What's happened. Move on. But it's so difficult not to think like that.
Because you're an Arsenal man, Jack.
Yeah.
It's the hardest decision of your life. It was the hardest decision of my life when I left.
Yeah.
But you have to do it because you want to play.
Yeah.
And maybe a change maybe is as good as a holiday, as they say.
Yeah.
But it is such a hard decision to leave the Arsenal because, you know, as players, Jack, when you have that badge on your chest and you win, there's nothing better, is there?
Oh, yeah, it's brilliant. Especially like when you're an Arsenal man, as you said, and you're from the area, and like everywhere you go, there's Arsenal people who talk to you, and they talk to you about the game. And like even now, when I'm out, like some people always come up to me and they're like, "Oh, you got a club? Where you playing now?" And I'm like, "No, no interest, please." And then someone will be like, "Well, what do you think about Arsenal?" And I'm like, "Bang, I'm in it." I'm like, "Yeah, I think this. Yeah."
Love that.
It's so awesome. It's been a brilliant hour with you, Jack. I mean, just absolute gold here. What do you want the Arsenal fans to know? I mean, you've talked to them year after year. You've had so many interviews, talked to, you know, the national press, books, all this kind of stuff. What would you like Arsenal fans to really know about you and your time at the club?
What, as Kev said, like, you don't realise how big it is until you're not there. And I won't say how much you love it, because I absolutely love my time there. I loved going into training. I love being a part of the Arsenal family. I love going to the Emirates on a match day. I even loved, like, and this will sound mad, like when I was injured, as much as I hated it, I used to still love going to the Emirates and watching the boys. Like, it's that special feeling. Yeah, so I think the one thing that will never leave me and a lot of Arsenal people is that love. And as even if they're not doing well, you still have hope, and they still keep you coming back. And yeah, I mean, I'll be a fan now for life. You know, you never know what will happen in the future, regards of whether I'll go back in terms not to play. I'd love to go back to play, but I don't think that's going to happen. But in terms of after football and things, but yeah,
you want to
like
manage, Jack?
I don't know. You know, I change. My thoughts change on that quite a lot. Like I'm doing my coaching badges at the moment. I'm coaching. I've got an academy where I coach some young kids, and I really enjoy coaching sort of the age between sort of 12 and 16. Whether that will change, and I'll change to wanting to go into the men's side of the game. But at the moment, I'm enjoying the coaching side of trying to help these young players develop. My academy is sort of like the gap between grassroots and academy level for them kids who sort of haven't been picked up yet, but they've still got a chance. And I enjoy passing on my wisdom to them of what I went through, and because I've been there, I know what the feeling's like of trying to make it, the pressures you have, and I'm enjoying that at the moment.
Amazing. Well, look, we're so grateful. Will you come back on the show this season and chat with Kev and talk a little bit more about the Arsenal? Yeah,
if we're doing well.
Jack, listen, we can't. It needs to be better. It needs to be better, mate. It will be.
It has to be better. And JJ, thanks again for being part of this, and we're very grateful to you as well. And Super Kev, as always, the squaddies have been on top form tonight. Everyone has been just absolutely brilliant. There's so many questions still that fans want to ask, and Jack will come back. Okay, 100%. Perfect. Yeah,
fantastic.
And
Jack,
now you've married into a Greek family. I got under because I'm Greek. Are you having souvla? Are you having souvla on Sundays?
I'm the king of souvla now.
I love it. You mastered it.
Yeah, my father-in-law, he taught me well, to be honest. He taught me very
Amazing. Amazing.
That's quality.
All right, quality, everyone. Well, look, we're out. We're going to be back tomorrow night. We got Curtis Shaw on the show tomorrow night. And, thanks so much for joining us. Again, thanks to Jack. And we will see you and we will be back tomorrow. Until then.
Hold on. Hit the like button, everybody, because Super Jackie's on and JJ the man's on. So hit that like button. And if you don't like it, don't hit the dislike. Hit the like button if you dislike it, right? There you go. Number 7 Wilshere. And everyone.
Kev, and actually, you know what? Mark sent me this. He's so adorable. He says he still gets Jack's name on any shirt. That doesn't matter, new or old. He's a good friend of the show. Mark Gunner Runner does a lot of great stuff for diabetes as well. And our good friend Dave Seeger sent me a note. Are you still doing stuff for muscular dystrophy, Jack? Are you still involved in that?
I'm still an ambassador for them. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. All right. Well, absolutely. Yeah. All right, Kev, you take us out.
Everyone, listen. Thanks to Jack for coming on. JJ, thank you. The best presenter on any podcast, Sophie. And listen, squaddies, all the best. We'll see you tomorrow, and thank you.